All right, today we're going to tackle a big one, existentialism. Now, I know, it sounds kind of heavy, right? But really, once you strip away all the jargon, it's all about the questions we ask ourselves every single day.
You know that feeling? Like you're just a cog in some giant machine, a little lost, maybe disconnected from the world, from other people, or hey, even from yourself. Well, the thinkers we're talking about today had a name for this. They called it the illness of our time. It's that feeling of being kind of swallowed up by the pace of modern life. And that feeling right there, that's the starting point for existentialism. See, this isn't some old, dusty theory from a textbook. It was born as a direct response to that feeling. It's a way to try and reclaim what it means to be a real, living, breathing person in a world that can sometimes make you feel like, well, just an object.
Okay, so to really get it, let's go back to the beginning. Where did this powerful idea of freedom actually come from?
Well, it all kind of started way back in the 1840s with a guy named Søren Kierkegaard. He was already worried that modern society was turning people into cogs. So these ideas were kind of bubbling under the surface for a while. Then, fast forward to the early 1900s, and thinkers like Nietzsche and Heidegger really started to fan the flames. But the real explosion, that happened after World War II. That's when people like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus took these ideas out of the university and brought them into everyday life, into cafes, books, and plays.
So what's the one big idea that connects all these different thinkers?
Well, it's this huge tension. On the one hand, you are completely, totally free. But on the other hand, that freedom isn't some easy breezy gift. Nope, it's a weight. It's the sometimes terrifying burden of knowing that you, and only you, are responsible for your life.
All right, to really wrap our heads around this, let's break it down into 5 main ideas. These are pretty much the bedrock of existentialist thinking.
Okay, principle number 1, and this one is a huge one. Existence precedes essence. So what does that even mean? Well, think about a paper knife. Someone had the idea of it, its purpose, its essence, before they ever made it. Existentialists say for humans, it's the complete opposite. We're born first. We just show up. We exist. And then, through all the choices we make, that's how we create our own purpose, our own essence. Number 2, existentialism is not a fan of splitting the mind from the body. You know, the idea that you're just a brain driving a meat robot? Nope. They say you are one whole thing. You're not just a mind looking at the world, and you're not just a body in the world. You're a unified being. And because of that, you don't find truth just by thinking about it in an armchair. You find it by actually living, by getting your hands dirty. And that leads us right into number 3, the search for meaning. This philosophy doesn't run away from the big, scary questions. You know the ones. Who am I? What's the point of it all? How do I be a good person? Existentialism puts those questions right at the center of the table and says, yeah, wrestling with these, that's what being human is.
All right, principle number 4 is all about taking full responsibility. And Jean-Paul Sartre summed it up perfectly when he said, man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. Just think about that for a second. The implication is massive. It means no excuses. Not your past, not your family, not your circumstances. At the end of the day, your life is your creation.
And finally, number 5, existentialism is, at its heart, anti-theory. It basically says your actual, messy, real-life experience is way more important than any fancy theory about life. The moment you try to cram your life into some neat little box or a pre-made model, that's the moment you start losing what makes you you. So, okay, those are the big ideas, but how does this actually play out in real life? I mean, how can we use this stuff? This is where we get into the concepts of being and its flip side, non-being. Hey, remember that feeling we talked about at the very beginning? That feeling of being disconnected? Well, the existentialists say it's not just one thing. It's actually a fracture that happens in 3 key areas. We get cut off from nature, we lose meaningful relationships with other people, and maybe the worst one, we get disconnected from who we really are. To figure this out, they say we're actually living in 3 worlds all at the same time. The first is the Umwelt, which is basically the world around. Think of your physical environment, your body, your basic biological needs. Then there's the Mitwelt, which means the world with. This is all about your relationships with other people. And last, you have the Eigenwelt, the own world. That's your inner world, your relationship with yourself. And the whole point, the goal, isn't to just live in one of these worlds. It's to find a healthy balance among all 3. When you can do that,
when you're truly present in your environment with other people and with yourself. That's what the existentialists called Dasein. It literally just means being there, being fully in the world.
But you can't really talk about being without talking about its shadow, which is non-being. This quote from Rollo just nails it. The second you become aware that you exist, you also become aware of the scary fact that one day you won't.
And this puts a fundamental choice in front of us. Every day. We can run from that reality. We can distract ourselves, just conform, go with the flow. But that leads to a small, inauthentic life. The other option? We can turn around and face it. Stare our own mortality right in the eye. And what the existentialists say is that only by doing that, by confronting our non-being, can we unlock a life that's truly full of vitality, meaning, and authenticity.
So, where does all of this leave us? Well, it's not a neat little package of answers. It's really more of a challenge, a very personal one.
You know, for all its reputation for being dark and gloomy, existentialism really isn't about despair. It's actually a philosophy of empowerment. It looks at this big, empty universe that doesn't come with an instruction manual and says, great, that means you have the total freedom and, yes, the huge responsibility to write your own. And so we're going to end right there with a question that is the absolute core of this whole way of thinking. Your life is a blank canvas. You are the one holding the brush. So, what are you going to paint?